I'm Brad Robinson with Healing Broken Trust. A common scenario that people will find themselves in after they've had their trust broken is forgiving the offense, forgiving what happened to them. If you've gone through this, you know how hard forgiveness can be, especially after a betrayal like this. So, what is forgiveness? What are some misconceptions about forgiveness? And is there more than one type of forgiveness that people can engage in? So let's talk about that. So, what is forgiveness? Just a working definition that most people would agree on who research this is that it's letting go of our right to punish somebody who has deeply hurt us or offended us. It's letting go of our right to take vengeance into our own hands. It's letting go of our right to hurt somebody who has hurt us, to repay them back for what they've done. That's what forgiveness is. Sometimes people will be forced to forgive. What I mean by that is we're forced to forgive because it's not in polite society. I can't go get vengeance on this person. Maybe they're locked away in jail, so I can't. They've done something really wrong. The police have found them, and now they're in jail. I can't go hurt them. I can't go retaliate against them. In a sense, I'm forced to forgive because I can't go get revenge on them. But forgiveness is more than just not letting go of our right to punish somebody. It's also spiritual writers, more Christian thinkers on forgiveness will talk about forgiveness as letting go of our right to punish somebody, but also doing something to will the good of that person. And that's where forgiveness can become extremely powerful. Not only are we wronged, but now I'm going to do something that will help you become better off. And it doesn't mean in that the Christian faith or the Christian tradition that I'm going to do something that allows you to walk over me or enable me. It could be something as simple as praying for you. It could be feeding your family, taking care of people you care about. And you could see that type of forgiveness being extremely powerful and revolutionary, because not only do I not seek retaliation against you, but I'm doing something that is willing your good, that is putting action to my hands and feet to do something good for you. And that type of forgiveness, I think, is very powerful, as all types of forgiveness are. Now, when you do forgive somebody, even psychologists and modern researchers who look into forgiveness, forgiving doesn't mean we forget. It also doesn't mean we restore the relationship with that person. We'll talk a little bit more about that in a moment. But it also doesn't mean that we trust the person who hurt us. Forgiving doesn't mean things are automatically restored, that things are okay. It doesn't mean I can't have boundaries. It doesn't mean I can't keep my distance from you. What it really just means at its core is I'm letting go of my right to punish you for this, to retaliate against you for this. It really means I'm just letting go of my right to hurt you for what you've done. The idea, again, in the New Testament, you've taken my eye. There's this understanding that we have that if you've hurt me, you broke me, you owe me. And so I can retaliate against you, I can hurt you. But what forgiveness is it's not seeking retaliation. It's not seeking to harm that person. It's not necessarily letting it go in the sense that we forget it, but it's choosing not to do something to punish that other person or retaliate against that person. Which, as you know, if you've been betrayed in an intimate relationship like a marriage, forgiveness can be really challenging and really hard. It's far easier to forgive from a distance. It's far easier to forgive when you don't see that person, when they're they've done something and then we no longer see them. It's harder to forgive when we're in a close relationship with that person because those wounds hurt more, but also it's much more tempting to want to retaliate, to want to send a message that you can't do this to me. This is not okay. So earlier I asked that question, is there more than one type of forgiveness? Yes, there is. There's what I call spiritual forgiveness, which is what I just have so far covered, the idea of letting go of our right to punish and retaliate. But then there's this other type of forgiveness where it's really about not only not retaliating, but also about letting that person in again. And this type of forgiveness is what you see more in intimate relationships where after somebody's been betrayed or after their trust has been broken, there's still a desire to reconcile, but we've been deeply hurt by this person. And so it's a much harder type of forgiveness to achieve because it's really based on the behavior of the person who has hurt us and wounded us. The first type of forgiveness is about, it has nothing to do with their behavior. It's about us finding freedom. It's about us being able to let go of what happened and choosing to move forward from it. But this second type of forgiveness contains that part. I'm going to choose to let this go. But because I'm in an intimate relationship with you, because I'm in close proximity to you, it's going to be much more on my mind. And I'm going to be terrified of you hurting me again. I'm going to be aware of that. I'm going to be thinking of those kinds of things. And so this is all about letting yourself be vulnerable and depend on that person who hurt us. It's a harder forgiveness to achieve, but it is possible. And in some ways, you could really make an argument that literally almost every couple who's in marriage counseling, not every single couple, but almost every couple who's in marriage counseling, that is a theme of why they're in therapy, is one of them has hurt the other in a key way that has gotten their relationship off track, and they don't know how to work through it. They don't know how to communicate about it. Maybe they had to bury it. Maybe they had to move forward from it. They had to ignore it. But it's a key event in their life where one of them felt hurt, betrayed, abandoned, deserted by the other, and it really got the relationship upside down. But they don't have words for it. They don't have a concept to understand it other than forgiveness. I would call it an attachment injury. That's what those are. But popular culture talks about it in terms of forgiveness. So they forgive and they continue to have a relationship, but because it's so hurtful and there's so many wounds that are created from it and so many misunderstandings that have happened from it, they're not really able to get their relationship back on track. They're not really able to adequately depend on each other emotionally again or on their spouse again. And when that happens, communication is going to be hard. And that's what people will come to therapy and complain about, is we can't communicate. Why do we get stuck? What's happened here? We're not able to really let go. And so that's the kind of, that second type of forgiveness is what we want. And I'll talk about that more in a future video. But how do people actually forgive? What the research says, what psychologists have studied about how people actually forgive, is they first test, punish, and retaliate the person who hurt them before they're able to forgive. It's almost like I got to keep you at arm's length, put my boundaries up, put my wall up with you before I'm able to move on from this event. Obviously, if it's a major trauma, that's trauma therapy helps a ton with that. I've worked with tons of people, helping them through trauma therapy, who weren't really able to forgive adequately in their mind until they were able to get closure with what's happened. Otherwise, they really stayed obsessed with what happened. They had intrusive thoughts. They weren't able to really adequately let it go the way they felt they should. And so being able to put our boundaries into place helps us feel more secure to be able to forgive. Being able to say, I don't need this relationship anymore. Being able to say, I can keep you at arm's length helps us forgive. And obviously, if we will the good of the other person who hurt us, that doesn't mean we let them back in our lives. If that's somebody who hurt us from our past, somebody from our childhood, things like that, that doesn't necessarily mean that we let them back in. And so forgiveness is complicated. Forgiveness is messy. And usually when we have to forgive, when we're in a situation that requires forgiveness, it's not just a minor mishap. It's not just a minor thing. It's something that challenges us. And there's a famous quote about forgiveness. Forgiveness is easy until you're actually called upon to forgive. When you actually are asked to forgive, it's challenging. But forgiveness is a fantastic virtue because it truly sets us free when we're able to do it. It helps us move forward, but it also can heal relationships because we're not pursuing our own version of vengeance with that person. Doesn't mean we don't have boundaries, doesn't mean we let them back in, but we're not continuing the cycle of destruction, of attacks, of negativity. Sometimes that means we keep our peace from a distance from that person. So forgiveness can be quite beautiful, and it can really help mend relationships. Usually what helps, so one other thought before we go on forgiveness, if the person who broke trust or caused the disruption can go sincerely seek out forgiveness from the person that they hurt and do it sincerely, not out of a sense of obligation or out of a sense of, I have to do this. But if they can really do that out of sincerity and in a compassionate way, it really helps people forgive. There's research that talks about when the person the offender, no matter what the offense is, if they can apologize, that creates empathy where it helps people begin to forgive. And it helps them be seen in a more positive light. So if somebody were to hurt me and then come to me and apologize, I would have more empathy for them as the victim in that situation. And as the victim, I would be able to begin to see them in a more positive light, which would help me also to forgive. Because I could see, like, you know what, they're not this terrible person that did this. Maybe it was a one-off, or maybe they've grown, they're no longer the same person. So those things help with forgiveness. So if you're the person who hurt the other, and if you can sincerely seek their forgiveness and ask for it, it will help them be able to move forward and really begin to find closure and begin to let that go in a very meaningful way. So thank you for your time. I'll see you next time. This is Brad Robinson with Healing Broken Trust. We have workshops, online courses for couples dealing with trust issues, seeking to heal their marriage after infidelity, and other trust issues. Thank you for your time.